of season 3 for Culture Foolishness. And we're doing things a little differently this time, starting off with an interview and a subject that is really, really important to everybody's community, but especially the Black community. Today's episode is Health is Wealth, but at what cost? And today I have one of my very good friends, LaRae. She has a wellness brand, and she does a lot of stuff in the dance sector, and just a very talented person. I'm going to turn it over to her and let her tell you about her a little bit more.
What's up, y'all? Thanks for having me, of course. I'm really excited to be here and talk about this today with you. I'm a dancer here in Los Angeles. I'm also a social worker, community advocate. I spent a lot of years just working in the greater Los Angeles area, mostly in the Black and brown communities, but a little bit of everywhere. As you said, I have a wellness brand, a CMOS brand, CMOS small business that I'm running currently, and I'm really just, somebody who likes to kind of incorporate wellness into everything that I'm doing, whether it be in the arts, with dancing, again, in the community work that I do, or in direct wellness with like my products and stuff. So, yeah.
That's what's up. And before I forget, because I'm so excited, I didn't even introduce myself. I am Creed of Exodus Studio, TexasMars.com, you know me, and obviously of Culture Foolishness. So you said you work in the like mental health space as well. Like, can you talk about that a little bit?
So I'm a social worker,
okay.
So I've kind of ventured into several different avenues, public child welfare, substance abuse. I worked at a couple different rehabilitation centers, homeless shelters, mostly with children and families over the last like 8 years now. But, again, I've kind of dabbled in a lot of things. So, especially in LA, mental health, homelessness, just very much, violence in the community, kind of all intersects, poverty, it's kind of this whole monster, so as a social worker, it's kind of hard to be like, oh, I just do this, it's in everything. So, I think the most thing, again, I've been in the public child welfare sector over the last about 8 years. And so that's kind of where I think I've gotten the most of my experience as a social worker, and again, with that, dealing with mostly Black and brown families in LA, in South Central area, in Compton, in, these areas, you kind of get to see kind of what the need is. And for sure, outside of, again, just the poverty and the financial struggles and, the broken homes and abuse and all the nasty things, wellness, is something that is I think missing in a lot of those spaces, that could improve certain people's situations, maybe not wholly, but, get you kind of going on the road to and just a better lifestyle, no matter what you kind of started from or where you came from,
That's what I was going to ask you, did working in these environments inspire your company in the sense of this is something that these communities are missing?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, for sure, because I think a lot of times, the typical kind of, ways that we look at healing, from a professional standpoint, therapy, medication, and, those things are the obvious. But a lot of times when you're dealing with Black people and brown people, culturally, those are not things that necessarily relate to people, and I see now kind of when it comes to mental health, things kind of shifting more towards a self-care kind of centered approach, but I think just overall, that talk therapy and, that doesn't always work for everybody, especially again with Black people. Sometimes dance, sometimes music, sometimes just fitness, moving your body is something that people take for granted, and that can really improve your mental and your physical, and that's not something that's always pushed when it comes to mental health and stress and anxiety, and I think that's something that Black people or just people in general need to be reminded that can be an option, towards your own healing, your own wellness journey. It's not always just spend a bunch of money, on therapy, spend a bunch of money on this, or go, sometimes it's get grounded, You know, maybe you need to be in nature a little bit. You know, maybe you need to be around people who care about you. Let's figure out how to build healthy relationships, but not necessarily, you know, so focused on, like I said, the pharmaceutical side of it, and like, you know, and that's important because mental health, you know, we're talking about brain function, you know, and people forget that it is a science to, you know, most mental health issues, you know, but a lot of times, you know, people don't know that they have other options, you know, like for myself, you know, I've seen a lot of families, a lot of children, school-age children, you know, and it's like, let's put them in treatment, let's do this and da-da, but it's like, let him ride his skateboard, you know, and give him some vitamins, you know, like, let's start there, you know, and so that definitely kind of inspired me to be like, you know, what are other things that work for us that we can do every day, you know, on an everyday basis that can, you know, help us become healthier, you know, and just improve our overall quality of life, you know, so we're not waiting to the last minute to get healthy and, you know, change everything around or
it's
wait
hard when you wait. Trust me, the longer you wait to do things for your health, the harder it is to change habits, the harder it is to just get your body into the flow of things. Like when you start when you're young, it's just is an easy thing to maintain.
Yeah.
And one thing I will say, just from everything you said, it sounds like, which I feel is super dope, you've taken your background as a whole, combined with your education, and it's giving you such a different perspective to help people. And I think that's like really amazing, because to be able to pull in the dance aspect, the health aspect, and see how all those things interconnect, that's like really awesome.
Because it does interconnect. When you think about it, like, you know, if we're talking about, again, let's just say fitness, for example, we're talking about people who like physically want to lose weight or just, you know, maybe have high blood pressure, all those things, you know, it's like dance is movement. You know, I started out as a dancer. I've been dancing since I was like 6 or 7 years old, you know, and that's been my therapeutic space since day one, you know, but dancing has kept me healthy for sure, you know, 1000%, you know, just moving, you know, and I think that's, again, like you were saying, the younger you start being physical and doing things and just being conscious of that, the easier it is when you get older, you know, like, you know, of age now, I ain't gonna say, but, you know, it's different.
Stuff be like knees be everywhere for no reason. Like, I didn't do anything. I just was sitting here.
Why am I in pain?
Like, what's happening?
I didn't do anything. Why am I in pain? You know?
But it goes back to what you put in your body.
Yeah.
So, you know, back to the wellness thing. So what does wellness mean to us, you feel like, as a community, as far as like definitions of wellness when you were growing up versus now? Like, how is it different?
I think wellness now, to me, I think it's more like a holistic approach. And I think people are getting more hip to that, you know. Growing up, I mean, I didn't really get, like, I didn't have family or, like, you know, parents that was really, like, you know, into taking this and the herbs and the da-da-da, you know. My mom was like, yeah, I know y'all need to eat some vegetables, you know, like, drink some water, you know, but I wasn't, that's kind of as far as it went, you know. And then, you know, I started to kind of get more familiar with other cultures and, like, you know, had a lot of Caribbean friends and African friends, you know, and then they're kind of more aware of different things, natural things that you can use, you know. But at the time, you know, it wasn't really a conversation, I don't think, wellness as a whole, you know, growing up. Whereas now it's kind of, you know, again, I don't want to say trendy because, you know, good, you know, let's all be, well, you know, healthy. But I think now the biggest difference I see is that it's a more, again, holistic, but also just kind of incorporating everything, you know, like we can't talk about wellness without talking about the mental. We can't talk about wellness without talking about financial freedom, even. Like, you know, there's a lot of more components now that people are like, oh, it's not just skinny or fat. Like, you know, there's a whole being, you know, there's a whole mental, physical, spiritual that needs to be well to function. You know, it's all those together.
Absolutely. I think, like you're saying, like, people are finally understanding the connection with everything. And for me, I was blessed kind of being in a household that was like ahead of the curve. Like, my mom is a nerd about herbs and teas, and I grew up on echinacea and slippery elm and golden seal tea, like some nasty thing that she put together when I got sick. But now, because I know that it works, I'm in the kitchen doing the same thing. No, I'm still not liking it, but I know that it works. So one thing about, you know, it becoming a quote-unquote trend is a good thing, but a lot of people have been knowing about, I mean, just even the sea moss as Dr. Sebi, like, you've been telling people forever and ever, and finally people starting to catch on, and now it's a quote-unquote trend, but it's a positive trend.
It's a positive trend.
I like that.
Right, I'm like, I don't mind it at all. I get people all the time, like with the sea moss, that are like, oh yeah, Dr. Sebi, or oh, I've been hearing about it. I'm like, cool, I don't even gotta, you know, that lets me know that it's becoming more brought up conversation. People are saying, oh, this is something that's important, even if I'm not necessarily in the habit of doing it just yet, or I know exactly what it is. I know it's something that, you know, is important. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Speaking of that, like, how do you feel different generations of Black families kind of view self-care, like compared to back in the day to now? Like, I feel like our generation is completely different when it comes to that.
Yeah, the millennials and the Gen Zers and the, you know, it's very much like, take care of yourself, quit that job, you know, take care of yourself first, you know, and I think, again, older generations, like even my parents and, you know, it's a learning curve, I think, you know, because you gotta think they didn't grow up in a time where it was like, you know, that was a priority. It's like you work till you die type of, you know, attitude, you know, and even if that job is killing you, you still do it, you know, and it's at some point, you know, I don't know when it happened, you know, maybe we just got fed up. You know, our generation got fed up, but I think definitely, you know, self-care is kind of where it all started. I think, you know, people being like, this is not working, you know, that's kind of how it happened for me. Like, this isn't working. I got to take care of myself before I can do anything, you know, and that's what will happen. That's what will happen, whether you like choose to be like, oh, I'm gonna focus on self-care. Your body will tell you, you need to take care of yourself, you know?
No, your body will shut down on you. It will tell you very loud. When it's ready to, it's like, oh, you're gonna keep, okay, let's go out. So, why did you collapse in front of, like, that's what I was trying to tell you. Now you gotta, you know, your stuff. So, no, your body gonna tell you for sure.
Yeah.
What else do I want to talk about? Soft life versus survival mode. Soft life is something that gets thrown around a lot right now, but in this context is more so, do we have, as a culture and what everything is happening to us, around us, do we have the luxury of focusing on wellness?
I love that you asked that question, because literally, I feel like for the most part, people don't, you know, especially being in LA, everybody's in survival mode all the time. And that's kind of, again, that was kind of one of my reasons why I was really like, you know what, I'm gonna start this business and get it going, because everybody around me, including myself, you know, at some points, I feel like everybody's just here surviving. Nobody's living. Everybody's like, money, 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 money. You know, of course we need that to live and survive, but it's just like, you know, that can't be the only conversation. I got to a point where I feel like every room I was in, that's the only conversation people were having, but it's because everybody's trying to survive, you know, and I get that, you know, especially coming from the hood, whatever, like, that's kind of, you always like, I gotta make it out the mud, and that becomes your mindset about everything, your whole personality, even sometimes for a lot of people, you know, and so, you know, I think just a lot of people, they don't think that they have the luxury to be like, you know what, I can take time to do other things, or to pour into or invest in other things, and not just hustle, or not just make money, or
sometimes
survive.
It's blessing.
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure, like, even you as an entrepreneur have these moments where you low-key be laying down and feel guilty about resting
every day,
because you know you have a laundry list of things to do, but you can't do that without letting your body rest and heal and refuel and all that. So it's hard to, especially again living in LA when it's just like, or you can be in a situation where your job gonna come into play and you gotta go help them. So
and that's exactly what I tell myself too. Like when I feel like guilty of like, oh, you know, I'm taking a nap, or like I need a rest day, or I need a reset day, or like, you know, I'm somebody who, again, I need to get grounded. I'm going into nature. I'm in a park somewhere. I'm somewhere on a mountain, like, you know, and not feeling like, you're just playing around or like, no, this is what I need to do to get inspired. This is what I need to fuel whatever creative energy I need to fuel my business. And this is what's going to give me, prepare my body for whatever work that's coming next,
Absolutely. I literally have been taking a lot more time to go hiking and go to the beach and just, why do we live here? Number one, just enjoy those.
Enjoy it.
Number two, just being in a place where you're connecting with the source, with nature, it just brings so much clarity. Like, I'm pretty sure one of them hikes, you probably thought all this stuff right now.
Yeah.
That's what gives you the clarity to have those ideas. That's when the voice can speak to you. Whatever you think that voice is, I'm not going there, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
So let's get into these superfoods. So tell me about sea moss and how you learned about it and really like how it's changed your life as far as like health. Because I'm sure for you to make a product, you felt the difference before anything.
Yeah, any product that I'm selling or promoting is because I've tried it first and it's worked for me, and I want it to work for other people too. The sea moss, it kind of just, I feel like I was kind of at a point where I kind of was just trying stuff, around COVID, 2020. I got COVID. And that was the first time I'd ever been like really sick for real. And I was like, first of all, I got COVID, like, me, humbled me for a minute, But after that, I was like, I can never be attacked like this again by any bacteria, any germ, anything, And so that kind of got me just curious about like, okay, lifestyle changes. What can I do differently? I changed my diet, started looking into different things, and then the sea moss, I started taking that, as like a workout supplement, I was kind of on my fitness journey and working out a lot, and that was something that I would use like to help my muscles recover faster, and so I was had been used to taking it already, but then I feel like rediscovered it within like this last year and really taking it more consistently. And for me, it's just really been a game changer in so many areas, mentally and physically. Sea moss is something that I talk about it as if it's like this multivitamin, because it really is. People are like, well, what does the sea moss do? Everything. And they're like, what do you mean everything? Actually, and the more that I've like just learned about it, and follow Dr. Sebi and all the things, it's just like, you find out that so many little things, not little things, but things like inflammation that just attacks the body is like the source of so many Black people's issues. And it's just like, that's it. It's not whatever the doctor telling you, it's that, and finding, natural sea moss and different herbs and different fruits and stuff to combat that, it's like, it sometimes it's not this big thing. It's just what you're eating. It's just that, and if sea moss is something that you could take every day to help with that, then absolutely,
Everything is about what you're putting into your body. Like the medical industry, and this is me getting on my soapbox a little bit, literally, I have several doctor friends, nurses, nurse practitioners. The consensus when I ask them, what do you learn about nutrition in school? Nothing. Everything is prescription drugs, how this drug works, which, yes, you got to use them. Don't kill me with them. Learn it, of course. But the root of many problems come from diet, and they don't talk about that.
They don't.
It's just, here's a pill. Still eat steaks if you want, but that's the problem, though. And they don't just take this pill and eat the cheese. It's like, no.
Put the Band-Aid on.
You gotta stop.
And that's why I think like coming from a social work background, it's really kind of segued into this for me, because a lot of times in social work, you're dealing with macro huge problems, and we're not superheroes. We're not going to end world hunger. We're not going to end homelessness overnight. So a lot of times we aren't putting Band-Aids on things. We're putting Band-Aids on generational trauma that can't just be fixed overnight. We're putting Band-Aids on like, serious issues that people are going through, and it's temporary, So, and that's kind of what the same thing with the pharmaceuticals, and it's just a Band-Aid. Here's some antibiotics, but you'll be back next month,
It's just fix it.
Right.
Diet.
Exactly. You gotta make it implement something in your life that's actually gonna combat the issue first of all, and then you'd be surprised. Like you said, just understanding that you have options. You have options, you know, and like people don't know that you don't just have to take the drugs. You know, other things do work, and it sounds like, oh, okay, yeah, you ate fruit, whatever, you did that, and that really helped you. Yeah, it did. It did. You know, and I'm not somebody who's like a health freak of like, you gotta da-da-da-da. Like, you know, I tell people all the time, like, you know, take what you need, do what you need for you, you know, at the end of the day. But like, it will work if you be consistent at anything, you know?
Yep, that is very true. So let me ask you this, just from the standpoint of I've been knowing you for years, and one thing about Erica, she's tapped into the community, she's tapped into our culture. So that being said, our roots culturally as Black people from Africa and all the things that we kind of lost in the process of being here, were those certain things that kind of inspired you to find out more about like holistic health as well? Just yeah, because just going back to the food thing, like, you know, I've been in very diverse settings, you know, I've traveled a little bit, you know, and just in other countries, and just when you go to different cultural settings, people aren't eating the things that Americans are eating. People aren't, you know, living the same way, like, you know, and so I think it's definitely inspired it for sure. You know, it's just a different mindset. You know, I think it's a different mindset, you know, and even, you know, just if you're somebody who identifies as like African American, you know, or somebody who just has African roots in general, you know, I think that it has kind of, I guess, the trickle down has become less and less. I think, you know, it's kind of coming back, but I think just going back to like the motherland, you know, there's always been, you know, an emphasis on whatever we need, the earth has for us, you know, and that's not something that is taught here necessarily. You know, even if, you know, you could be from South America, you be African, wherever you're from, you know, you may not do it every day, but they know, like, you know, the earth got what we need, you know. That's not something you hear here. It's like, go to the store and do whatever, not make a garden, you know. Well, so, your Opulent Life. Very cool name. What does that even, like, what inspired you to use that as the brand name?
Well, Opulent Life is just kind of a, you know, cool way to say live a life of wealth and luxury, you know, and we're redefining wealth and luxury as wellness and not necessarily the cars, the money, you know, because when I think of opulence, that's what most people think of. You think of luxury and like, you know, something that's very grand, you know. But for me, it was like, I want opulence every day. You know, I don't want to have to wait till I get to whatever to have an opulent life. Like, I can have that every day. And like, what does that look like for me? You know, for me, that looks like, you know, getting my dose of nature. That looks like taking care of my body. That looks like being in spaces that bring me joy. You know, that looks like having slow mornings sometimes, you know, and be able to take time to rest. You know, that is, you know, luxury in itself, you know, so that's kind of where the name comes from, you know. And then I think just as Black people in general, you know, the melanin gonna speak for itself. And you know, you being a Black person and being a Black woman, you know, that's something that I take pride in, you know. And I think just, you know, when you have a certain pride in who you are, you know, you automatically give off, you know, an opulent energy, you know. And so that's kind of where the name comes from.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I mean, when I first saw it, opulence to me, the definition just means rich in a way. You know, obviously live a rich life, but what is a truly rich life? Yeah. It's health, because back to, you know, going full circle, health as well. Ask any rich person with bad health what they would trade for that health again. They will give you, here's everything. Give me your health. Yeah. You could be over here sick with the money. How about that?
Right, because there's no other feeling than getting up and not having to go, ooh, ow, ooh. Like, you know, I have a parent, my mother, she, you know, she has physical ailments, you know, and it's just like, you know, a lot of people, we have a lot of family members, we have a lot of people, you know, who wake up and they can't just go run a mile, you know, because they got whatever issue or, you know, whatever sickness they done caught along the way, you know, and it's just like to wake up every day and be like, I can do whatever I want and not have to be limited. That's the thing. Like, I don't ever want to feel like I'm limited to what I can do. If I want to go climb a mountain, if I want to go, you know, build this, I can. If I want to go, I'm a very physical person, as you can see. are like active, but but it's true though. Like whatever that means for you, whatever you're into. If there's anything that that's going to limit you because of your physical, then it's like let's do what we can to make sure that we can optimize whatever way of living that we want to live.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. So we kind of talked about what the opulent lifestyle means to you, but like, how do you educate your customers on health? Like when you are in front of them, like obviously do pop-ups and stuff like that. Like what are some of the dialogues you've had with people that have shopped your brand?
The first thing I usually start with is just thinking about just whether it be the sea moth or just wellness in general. If we're talking about just health, it's important to start where you're at. I'm never going to tell anybody, hey, you need to. I'm not giving people diet plans. I'm not giving people, health instructions and do the start where you're at. If you've never taken sea moss before, if you've never tried anything healthy, take this juice. Just try juice, and if you come back next week, if you like it, sea moss, a spoonful a day, but maybe not every day because you just get used to the taste, Start where you're at. Don't try to push yourself into something that's like this umbrella of like what fitness or not fitness, what wellness and health is supposed to look like. Start where you're at. If that means every day waking up is just stretching, meditating, start there. You don't have to start with taking 1,000 herbs and Start where you're at, and it kind of builds from there, Then you start building, then you start learning, then you start adding. I don't really like that. That don't really work for me. So start with one thing you like, and then just let it build from there, and just your body will tell you, that feels good. Oh, we don't really like that, So start where you're at, and be open to trying new things.
Because people get intimidated, I think, when they're first trying to,
exactly,
and all of that. So I think what you're doing is kind of giving them that kind of calmness. Like, oh, okay, I can do this, And then obviously everything tastes good, so that is always just that aspect. I think for the person who's scared, like it's gonna be nasty.
Yeah, it's gonna be nasty, or
wow, you're gonna have to take some nasty stuff too, but he's a man with stuff that tastes good.
Right, and also too, like, you gotta think, people grown. Like, if you've been eating a certain way for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, it's gonna take a lot. It's gonna change overnight. Like, we got 30 years of whatever's in your gut, it's gonna take some minute to get that out. Like,
Absolutely.
So you gotta start small. Don't overwhelm yourself, It's your life. That's what it is. It's your life. You building the opulence that you want,
Boom. I like that. So what advice would you give somebody that wants to turn wellness into a business for them?
Advice? What advice would I give myself? We taking it day by day. But I would say find something that, like I said, that you can stand by. Like it's a lot easier for me doing what I do because it's something that I'm already passionate about. Like you can, it's a different energy. I think when you kind of just like, oh, that's gonna make me money because that's the healthy thing that's trending right now. Like, versus this is something that I know about, I've used it, it makes it so much easier when I'm talking to people, when I'm trying to, promote or, having conversations because it's natural, it's genuine, and I think that's what people want to see. Like, this is something genuine. She's not trying to sell me a product. She's not trying to tell me I'm too fat. Like, it's not, it's like, it's genuine. Like, and I say that to be funny, but like, it's real because, people look at me and I've always been somebody who's fit, but like, I don't ever want it to come off like, oh, this is for this one type of person. Like, it never, so it's like
somebody.
Yeah, it's like I'm just genuinely telling, like, this is what I stand by. So if you want to start a brand, a company, not even just wellness, like, my advice would be, start with something that you can stand by. And
sound like just the key is just be authentic.
Be authentic
to yourself and the stuff you really believe in. It's easy to speak to it.
And everything kind of grows from there.
Boom, boom. So I feel like we really covered pretty much everything that I wanted to today. And this was a pleasure. I'm used to doing this with my sister, and I'm talking a lot, and she talks a lot too, but this was actually nice, just like talking. I just
Yeah.
want to sit here and listen and learn. But this was so amazing. Thank you so much, Erica, for being really about the second guest of Cultural Foolishness. So,
I'm honored.
yes, and I want to do more of these because obviously today this was very informational and just a great break in what we normally do. But this is what I want to do normally from now on. So thank you again, Erica, and we are out.
Yeah.
All right.